Oh, Silent Hill, how much we do love you. You just have not been given the treatment that you deserve. Silent Hill and Resident Evil are two of the biggest horror franchises of all time. While not the first in the survival horror genre, they are definitely the two franchises responsible for making the genre as popular as it is today. In 2023, one of these franchises is thriving and arguably doing the best it ever has, whereas the other has pretty much been struggling since 2009. Because Silent Hill and Resident Evil were released within a few years of each other in the survival horror genre, they often get compared together. But I don't think that's really fair because while, yes, they are both survival horror games, they are two completely different games. So it's gonna seem like I'm kind of contradicting myself by comparing them in this video. However, I am not comparing them in the way that you are probably expecting. The last major Silent Hill release, well, one to actually officially come out, we'll get to that, was, I believe, Silent Hill Downpour in 2009. I have never played the game, so I have no experience with it. A few years later, a playable demo called PT came out in 2014, which was revealed to be a brand new game called Silent Hills, which was one of the best horror experiences I have ever had. Unfortunately, that game was canceled and you can no longer get playable teaser on your PlayStation 4. Luckily for me, I never deleted it off my PS4, so I am probably one of the few people in the world who still has access to playable teaser, so I will never sell my PS4. Although fans have been crying for a new Silent Hill game for years, the franchise has remained dormant until this past week when Silent Hill Ascension launched. Blech. I already have a video on Silent Hill Ascension on my channel, so go watch it if you have not heard about it. But in a nutshell, they're just coming for your money and it's bad. It's just bad. Now, there are 3 more Silent Hill games coming in the future, and I expect the next release is going to be the very, very highly anticipated Silent Hill 2 Remake. Silent Hill 2 Remake is being developed by Bloober Team, who have done games like the Blair Witch and Medium. I personally enjoyed those games, but they definitely have a lot of valid criticism, which has caused concerns among the Silent Hill community with how Bloober Team is going to be handling Silent Hill 2 Remake. The thing that makes the Silent Hill franchise so incredible in terms of a horror game is how subtle and nuanced it is with its horror themes. It's not one of those kind of survival horror games where things are going to be jumping at you and trying to get jump scares or surprise moments. Instead, Silent Hill chooses to play with your mind. I remember playing I think I was in the junior high or high school, and I was playing a PlayStation demo disc that had a Silent Hill 3 demo on it. In the demo, you are walking through a hospital and Cheryl ends up coming up to a giant glass window, and on the other side of the window is just sitting a wheelchair and a spotlight. This wheelchair creeped me out, and every time I ended up walking through this hallway knowing the chair was coming, I would feel myself tense up because I was curious and wondering and scared that something different, that something unexpected was going to happen with this wheelchair. But here's the kicker: nothing ever does. But that is the kind of psychological horror that Silent Hill is fantastic at in putting on its players. Another fantastic example of this is in Silent Hill 2, in the moment where you finally meet Pyramid Head for the first time. James is walking down the hallway and you hear the static on your radio start to play before coming to almost like a jail cell door frame in the hallway, and on the other side of it is standing Pyramid Head. But the way he psychologically messes with the player is like the wheelchair, he doesn't do anything. He is just standing there and just letting his entire presence and his being just manifest within the player's mind on what is going to happen. But that is the power of Silent Hill, and that is the power of Pyramid Head. In doing nothing, he terrifies the player. It is these kind of nuances and these these subtle ways that Silent Hill plays with the player's mind that has made the franchise stand the test of time. It creates these fantastic moments that stick with you even years or decades later, that when it comes to maybe a jump scare, it'll get you in the moment, but to me, it just doesn't have that impact on those moments created by, say, the wheelchair or Pyramid Head standing in the doorway. It is because of fantastic moments like this throughout the series that has made the players crave and want a new Silent Hill game. A great way, in theory, for Konami to be bringing back that franchise is to remake the game that everyone loves, Silent Hill 2. I have only played Silent Hill 1, 2, and 3, and they are all great games, but I feel it's almost universal that Silent Hill 2 is without a doubt the best game in the franchise. Between the story, the characters, the monster, the city, everything about it is just crafted so eloquently and so fantastically that things just stick with you. One of the things I love reading about Silent Hill 2, or even watching other videos here on YouTube, is you can interpret things a certain way, but even years later, I am still finding other people suggesting alternate theories or alternate viewpoints that even makes me go, do I even know what's going on in this game? It's that mystery and that unknown that sucks us into the game and just makes you want to learn about the lore, learn about the characters, and just dive into the psychological horror that Silent Hill can offer you.
Mary?
And then, of course, we have Resident Evil. Now, of the two, Resident Evil was actually the first game to launch, with Resident Evil 1 launching in 1996 and Silent Hill 1 coming a few years later in 1999. Now, as I mentioned before about jump scares, of the two games, Resident Evil absolutely tends to favor the jump scare horror opposed to the psychological horror. You'll have zombies popping out of closets, you'll have dogs jumping through windows, hunters coming from round corners, anything to get those kind of startle, unexpected moments on the player. The two games handle horror very differently, but the reason they're so infamous in the survival horror genre is because they have mastered their craft, one with the jump scares, and of course Silent Hill with psychological. Over time, where Resident Evil eventually kind of started to steer away from horror and continue to pump out new games, Silent Hill just seemed to fall to the wayside. With Resident Evil 4, you had this series start to shift more towards an action approach while still maintaining somewhat of the horror elements of the original games. But by the time you got to Resident Evil 5, which is a game that I have always described as something that is fun to shoot bad guys with a friend, but not necessarily a great Resident Evil game. And I say that having played Resident Evil 5 countless times since it was originally released. And then, of course, you have Resident Evil 6.
My sentiments exactly.
Like Silent Hill, eventually Resident Evil went dormant for a few years before re-emerging with Resident Evil 7. Now, this is where the comparison is going to start coming into play here. I am not comparing the gameplay itself of Resident Evil and Silent Hill, because as they're two different games, comparing them is just disingenuous and disrespectful to the two individual franchises. The point I want to make here is how Resident Evil brought itself back to horror with Resident Evil 7 and therefore rejuvenating the franchise. When Resident Evil 7 launched, it came at a time where people were starting to associate Resident Evil with just action. But Resident Evil 7 took the game back to its roots and set you in the Louisiana swamp in the giant Baker house and made me feel like I was playing Resident Evil 1 again, trying to solve puzzles through the house, manage my items, manage my weapons, find upgrades for my weapons. It just felt like I was playing the franchise that I knew and loved. You can say what you want about like the second half of the game. It's still great. It's just not as strong as the first half. But Resident Evil 7 opened the door to bring Resident Evil back to horror. And then you have Resident Evil 2 Remake, and even you can make the argument, no, not that one, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Now this is where Bloober Team and Silent Hill 2 Remake need to really pay attention. Capcom with Resident Evil 2 Remake took the game that everyone knew and loved, and for the most part, completely respected the original game. But instead of it just being a one-to-one remake, they actually expanded on a lot of the themes and elements presented in the original Resident Evil 2. For example, Martin's story is completely expanded.
I'm giving you an order, rookie. You save yourself first. I'd come with you, but I'd just slow you down. Now, you'll need this.
I can't take him.
Stop. And don't make my mistake. If you see one of those things, uniform or not, you do not hesitate. You take it out, or you run. Got it?
The original Resident Evil 2, Kendo, the gun store owner, is a very brief character that is kind of like your 90s macho guy, hey babe kind of character. But in Resident Evil 2 Remake, in the one scene he's in, he completely steals the show. He is such a fantastic character, and the story they told in that very brief scene just rips the player's heart out.
Mommy.
I was sleeping, honey. Okay? And I'm gonna put you to bed too, okay? Emma. Just go. Just give us some privacy.
It was such a fantastic way that Capcom honored the original game while expanding on it and bringing it into the modern era, which is something that I know Bloober Team wants to do with Silent Hill 2 Remake, but they need to be very careful. I, in no way, shape, or form, am trying to make the argument that Silent Hill 2 Remake should be Resident Evil 2.5 Remake. Absolutely not. Keep the two games as two separate individual titles. But it's the way that Capcom brought back Resident Evil with Resident Evil 7 and then expanded and made the original game so great with Resident Evil 2 Remake that Bloober really needs to take notes here. I believe that Bloober intends to modernize, say, the game itself and the controls for Silent Hill 2 Remake, but if you are going to expand on the psychological and subtle ideas presented in Silent Hill 2 Remake, you have to truly, genuinely respect the way it was handled in the original Silent Hill 2, or fans are going to immediately revolt against you. If you try to take those same themes and make it too like in your face or spell it out too much for you, it's going to ruin a lot of the mystery and that just feeling of unknown that even years later still lingers with me as a Silent Hill fan, even though I have played the game multiple times and have watched countless videos or read various articles about it online with people having different theories on what things could mean or what could be implied by maybe what a certain character does. There's a rumor going around right now. It was revealed on a Best Buy pre-order page that Pyramid Head might have his own other playable part of the story, or there's going to be an expansion on the origin of Pyramid Head at least, which, if I'm being honest, my immediate reaction to that is, and here's why. I'm all for them expanding parts of the game and trying to maybe put a little bit of their own flair on the game. That's fine. But as I've been saying, the thing that makes Silent Hill so great is the mystery behind it. If you've played Silent Hill 2 and you have paid attention, you know the origin of Pyramid Head. You know what he symbolizes and where exactly he comes from and what he is supposed to be in relation to the character of James Sunderland. But even with that, there's still that aura of mystery behind him. Even when I know who he is and what he represents, I still get that mysterious, uneasy feeling every time I replay the game and I see Pyramid Head standing at those bars in the apartment hallway. But by metaphorically trying to give a face to Pyramid Head, you really risk kind of stepping all over who the character is and taking away that mysterious aura behind him. Fidget from the future here, and as I was editing this video, Konami actually put out an update about the Pyramid Head origin story. Eurogamer has posted, Konami has confirmed to Eurogamer that Best Buy's listing page for Silent Hill 2 Remake was incorrect. In a statement sent to us, Konami said the page contained incorrect information and it had been updated. The line, fan favorite character Pyramid Head makes a return along with a special origin story for fans to play through, has been removed from the game's description. Well, my friend, it sounds like your origin story is going to remain a mystery for a little bit longer. Even take a character like Angela. As you play the game, you learn the horrible tragedy and the horrible things that have happened to Angela throughout her life. But even when you are getting those pieces of information revealed to you, there's still this element of uneasiness, this element of tragedy that is present, but you still feel like there are pieces missing. You still feel like you have more questions to answer, which is what draws the player into the Silent Hill universe. If you try to make it too cookie cutter, too obvious, it's just gonna come off as a, hey, look, this is really sad and bad, isn't it? Aw, this is a bummer, which can really just take away from the emotional trauma of these moments. And trauma is something that is very present with characters in Silent Hill, which, to go back to Ascension briefly, is another issue with that game. It's like they know a lot of these characters have trauma, so they're trying to be very in your face. Look, trauma, 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 which is not something we want with Silent Hill 2 Remake. A lot of eyes are on Bloober right now, and they really need to pay attention to how Capcom has handled the Resident Evil franchise since Resident Evil 7 launched a few years ago. They are modernizing it like Bloober Team wants to do. They are creating new games, and they are going back and adding new things to these remakes, but they are still respecting what makes the original Resident Evil games so great. I am going into Silent Hill 2 Remake with as an open mind as I can. I don't like going in with a pessimistic viewpoint on the game before I even played it, so I'm still going into Silent Hill 2 Remake hoping for an incredible game that is going to make everyone second guess what they thought about Bloober Team. I'm hoping Bloober Team has learned from their mistakes and appreciate the giant project, but also the giant weight on their shoulders when they obtained the rights to make Silent Hill 2 Remake. But with how loved this game is and how loved this franchise is, and after all the backlash and passion that has poured out from the fan base with Silent Hill Ascension, more eyes now than ever are on Bloober Team to deliver with Silent Hill 2 Remake. This could be a make or break moment for Bloober Team and for the future of the Silent Hill franchise. So I'm really hoping that Silent Hill has its Resident Evil moment where after Silent Hill 2 Remake comes out, people are blown away by an amazing game. Bloober has put so much love in respecting the original Silent Hill 2, but bringing it into an audience for, I'm going to assume 2024 at this point, and opening the door for the Silent Hill franchise to have a strong comeback after the release of this game. It would be amazing if after 2024, we could once again say both Silent Hill and Resident Evil are the top of the food chain when it comes to survival horror. I mean this with all the sincerity in the world. If anyone from Bloober Team is watching this video, good luck. I'm cheering for you. Thanks for watching.